It looks like we are good to go. Everything's coming along very nicely, and the internet connection is pretty slow, but that is going to do it. It's going to do it. We can't help that. Okay, it looks like it's somewhat all right. No, it's pretty shitty. It's pretty shitty. It's okay. We're going to do what we can do. All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of the Narik Chase channel. Your boy Narik Chase, and of course, have with me Madam B right here. I was supposed to be throwing out a closer look video, but since I didn't get one out today, I will put out two tomorrow, as well as the Breaker Debates. Even though Breaker Debates might be a little bit late or early, depending on how the day goes. You know, I do got that. Yeah, gotta go out of town. But y'all gonna get all those tomorrow. Either way it goes. So, anyways, guys, I am been thinking about a special topic, and this has been something I've been wanting to talk about for some time, and I don't know what to say for some of the stuff that I've been watching regarding this topic. We are talking about black horror films. I've been wanting to talk about it because I've seen a lot of shitty ones, and I just wanted to get my, get my thoughts out there. There was one, what was that commercial that they were having? All these black actors and directors and writers and producers were coming up. Some television, some series, where they were going to be talking about like black horror films. I did. I said, Madam B's here to join me. Wow. See, if you'd have just said something, you'd have been all right. But anyways, I want you guys, everybody that's watching, to go ahead and throw out some ideas as far as black horror films or what you think of them as well while we're talking. And we really appreciate you guys for watching. Okay, so in this topic, we're going to be talking about black horror films. Like I said, I was inspired by some of the shittiest ones I've seen. That series that they're dropping where black actors and producers and and writers and directors are talking about black horror films as well. And of course, I like talking about movies and stuff. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about this. Now, I want to specifically state on this one that I'm actually going to be trying to focus on like just black, like African, like quote unquote African Americans, black American horror films, not horror films starring black in lead roles. But I'm trying to just predominantly black. But of course, we're going to shift into those in lead roles too. So I guess we can go ahead and do that as well. But I'm going to primarily try to focus on those with majority black actors and actresses in it. So let's go ahead and get into this. I am sorry. There have been very few select horror movies I've seen that were like just predominantly black actors or whatever that were halfway decent. Very few, and I find it to be quite disappointing. Now, watching that little series, they were talking about, of course, that there was, blacks in entertainment had to go through so much, being stereotyped as usually either, hood or overly aggressive or seen as the first one to get killed. And remember when we was watching that movie, Be NATO, Be Tsunami, Tsunami or something like that. What was the black dude in there doing? He was over the top. He was hood. He was just trash, and literally just the worst of the worst. One of the worst written characters I've ever seen in a film.
Black dude?
Yeah, the main guy. Brother got shot. Even though he was dark, the brother was a half breed.
Okay.
But anyways, most black horror films just fucking suck. They have nothing good about them. I mean, I don't know.
They're either focusing on, when they do a black horror film, they're either focusing on try to make one like back in the day, like slavery part of. They're focusing too much on that.
They're focusing on three things in each one. If it ain't a slavery one,
yeah,
it's always something that has to do with whites and blacks, and it's always or it's hood. Now you got the race, the one back in the day, but you're not going to see a lot of those now. But you're mostly going to see hood stuff.
Right.
Biggest example is this. And kind of deviating a little bit, but we're gonna go with it. Think about every time there's a black interpretation of something, what does it always go to? It's got to be hood in some type of way. Like, think about it. I like.
And when you say hood, what do you mean? Explain.
Okay, biggest example. Look at the Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
Black version came out. We had the Wiz.
Mm-hmm.
The Wiz was kinda into the not at that time not hood, but it was definitely.
I thought it was pretty good.
No, I'm not saying it wasn't good. I'm just saying the way it was presented as it was all that like the hood of that time. I guess you could say. Even when we go back to see The Last Dragon, we see all of these martial arts films, and you see other ethnicities do their interpretations of martial arts and in their incorporated in their culture. And what do we get with The Last Dragon? It was straight up hood. So even and this is one of the ones I wanted to specifically talk about. Blackula, when they came out with their version of vampire, there's a Black Dracula. Where was it? In the hood. So it's like every single time we come with an interesting a black movie that's a horror film, it's always in the hood. Now, one thing I can give Jordan Peele is even though his movies tend to be are starting to me seem to be more like okay, black and white. Mm-hmm. It's like blacks are the good guys, whites are the bad. Because Get Out was I actually liked it. It was a really good movie. But that's what kind of the premise was. Well, I ain't gonna say kinda. That's what the premise was. Even though it was layered in a very interesting and a unique way, especially considering the storytelling. So I would give him 2 thumbs up on that. But it's like we can't escape that. And we can't escape that. And you know what? Fuck it. We'll go ahead and just branch off into movies with horror films with black leads in them as well. And a lot of times when I see movies like that, they tend to be overly not I don't want to say aggressive, but they do tend to roll into the stereotypes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like if there's a black guy in the movie, the guy's got to be hood in some kind of capacity, or there's got to be some hood folks in it. Now, and also I think we narrow. We're too narrow with our horror films. Now there was a movie I didn't get a chance to see it, but I wanted to. It was kind of like the Crips and the Bloods, but it was gangs of werewolves versus vampires. Mm-hmm. Didn't get a chance to see it, but I did want to watch that. I was like, okay, black folks kind of branching out to some interesting stuff. Now I haven't seen all these horror films. I'm not saying all of them are like this, but the ones that I've seen kind of fit into that. Now, me and Madam B even. Well, watched a couple together. One of them was Ragdoll, and if you haven't not seen our thoughts on that, that definitely was like straight hood. And it's like, why did it have to be hood? Why can't there be? And I'm saying this, why can't there be just a black family dealing with some kind of supernatural presence, and it's not hood?
Well, that's what they focus on. That's the main thing with the black culture. Like, honestly, you know that.
Because one movie that does a step forward, but it kind of takes a step back, is Bones. It's a supernatural horror with a ghost just killing people. Now it's good because I like seeing black people, black characters be in those types of roles. Problem is, what was it? In the hood. And I was like, guys, what did he happen to look like? He looked like a freaking pimp.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And it's kind of hard seeing Snoop Dogg, because Snoop Dogg, when he was alive, was kind of a good guy, I guess you could say.
Did you say when he was alive?
In the movie.
Like what?
Like, he ain't dead. He ain't dead, people. Don't get that twisted. But, in the movie, before he became a ghost, he was kind of a good guy.
I totally forgot about that movie.
Yeah, he was like some kind of good guy. I don't want to say he was a good guy, but there was somebody that wanted something and he was in the way. But it wasn't like he was like a bad dude or anything, because he was kind of like one of those cool cats that everybody knew in the hood, and if you need to kind of get the hook up, you could talk to him.
Right.
So this other guy, this douchebag, ended up, setting up events that killed him. So, but it's kind of weird because it's like his revenge story was kind of kind of dumb because even though he did kind of kill the people, that I don't know. It's one of those movies where I'm like, okay, his revenge thing was kind of like, yeah, I understand why you did it, but it's like I kind of didn't understand why you did it too because it's like, okay, you went after this guy, and I can understand you going after that guy. And I can understand you kind of went after these other people too, but I'm like, they were kind of forced to do it. But at the same time, I can kind of understand why you would do it too. It's weird. But anyways, that's one of those films. Now, one movie. In fact, let me stop talking so much. Let's get your general thoughts on about these black horror films.
As in,
Like, what are your thoughts?
I haven't seen a whole bunch of them, but I do think that they do rely heavily on
The stereotypes.
the stereotypes of
Mm-hmm.
black people, very heavily. Like I don't think they can. Well, just like now today, with the Get Out and then the other film coming out,
Us.
Us.
And I kind of like I like the idea of Us because from what it's presented as, it isn't in the hood. It's a normal black family. That's what I want to see.
Okay, so what about Tales from the Hood 2?
Tales from the Hood 2 is terrible. Y'all know if y'all have not seen me rant on that damn movie, go see me rant on it on Madam B and
That
Narik
movie
Reviews.
literally gave me a headache. I'm like, okay, just cut it out already with the black stereotypes.
And the SJW stuff and all of that stuff that they was present, they put into that movie. Now the first Tales from the Hood, and this is where the two vastly are just different. I don't mind a movie where it has a message in it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what was going on in the first Tales of the Hood did have a message about gang violence, but it had other messages as well concerning racism, of course, and bigotry. There was also a bit where it came to domestic abuse.
Mm-hmm.
There was
But it
also
was actually kind of entertaining to watch, though.
yeah, it was entertaining. It was entertaining. It was well told. It had a message that wasn't forced. It actually felt like a plausible story. Because a lot of what was going on in the Tales from the Hood too was all of that stuff didn't seem like it was like all that stuff was over the top,
Yeah.
and it didn't seem like it would actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, none of that stuff. Even think about the whole thing with the robot. I was like, really?
Yeah.
That's the best y'all could do. So, and I like Keith David in the film, but Keith David was over the top.
Yeah, and then like how they got him there, and like the whole plot of it, getting him there and having him tell stories.
Yeah, that was completely stupid. But I gotta say I love that line. He was like, "I got your soul, motherfucker."
Okay.
I love that line. That it was enjoyable, but it was nowhere near as classic as what happened in the first one, where the guy telling the stories turns out to be the devil.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, I want and continue what you're saying. I'm sorry, because I get the running off at the mouth.
No, it's okay. That's what I was just saying. You can't make a movie, a black horror film, without having to add all that. I mean, we get it. Just calm down a little bit.
And let's talk about one of the films, two of them actually, the Killjoy movies.
Which one?
I'm gonna go with the first one and the second one. The third one was just dumb, and I didn't watch the fourth one. I watched half of the third one, but it was still stupid. You could tell that budget was getting lower and lower. But anyways, the first one is probably the most. It's probably the most standout. Probably the best. I mean, they're all terrible, but they're probably the best one out of all of them. But even in the end, what was it? It was hood. And a lot of times when you watch these films, the characters are just stupid. They're poorly written. For one, let's go. In fact, let's talk about the Killjoy. Woods was a nerd.
Yeah.
Okay, he just happened to be a nerd. Then, of course, you got these. And another thing, also, I'm getting sick and tired of showing these like the lighter skinned chicks kind of be the main characters, but they're sweet and stuff.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they got the darker skinned chick that's a little bit more aggressive. Even in that film, what happened? The nice chick was the light skinned chick.
Right.
And the dark skinned chick was the more aggressive.
Right, she was all ooh, you're ready for anything.
Yeah. So we need to start working on the characters as well. I think that's one of the biggest problems. But a lot of it does have to do with like this hood element that they try to throw in all of this stuff. Look, I understand that if that's what you had to go with, that's what you had to go with. Fine. But I'm like, do a better job with the characters that you got.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we was watching that movie, and this movie came out in the 80s or 90s, was the Death by Temptation.
Yeah.
Terrible ass movie. And a lot of it had to do with the main character. The main character, in fact, like he was mentally handicapped.
That was what's his name?
In fact, it was I think the dude that played the main character was the director. I was like, I hope that's not the director because that was a terrible movie.
Didn't they mention that in the movie?
I think they did. They made some kind of reference to that. And I was like,
was that another movie?
No, when we was watching I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, and the sister was on stage, he was like, oh, that's the director's sister, which happened to be the dude that said it. Okay, but that was a good one. I give him that. That was a good one. But I'm like, okay, we gotta do better with these damn movies, because like even with that movie, it was they try to make it hip, they try to make it hood. The story itself was fucking stupid. It was an interesting idea. You got this female vampire. Which at the point of the movie you're like, this ain't no fucking vampire. This gotta be something else.
Mm-hmm.
This gotta be the succubus or the some interdimensional being. I don't know because from the stuff that she did in that damn movie was just ridiculous. That whole TV thing was stupid.
I totally forgot about that.
The TV ate the guy.
Right, I remember like flashes.
And what was stupid was he was the most likable character in the movie. But I'm like, okay, we gotta stop doing that. And like I said, Tales from the Hood had a great message. It was the quality was good, the performances was good. It was actually a good story, and it does touch on so many levels. But then again, you got, of course, Tales from the Hood 2 fell into that trap of racism. That's all they ever talked about was racism in the entire film, you know, and the whole doll thing come to life and killing them was just fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like whoever thought of that, you just lost your writing ability. Like I probably would not take you seriously ever again. Look, I like horror anthologies, and I've seen some that were awesome. I've seen some that sucked. But I'm like that Tales from the Hood 2 is just fucking garbage. Although I will say the only one I thought was half decent was the vampire chicks. Remember the dudes try to like set up that date rape stuff, and it turns out the chicks were vampires.
Okay.
That was about the best one. And but like I don't know what the fuck to say about that. I do not. But let's go back to the Killjoy before I forget what I was going to say. Like that movie, not only were the characters poorly written, and the dialogue is almost always fucking atrocious.
It is.
All that they try to cuss too hard. The thugged out dudes always try to act too hard.
Yeah, they like put a lot into that and it didn't work well.
Mm-hmm.
It's like back it up some.
None of the characters had almost anything going for them. You didn't know what they were doing. Even though the light skinned chick, she was, I guess, in school, and the only time they mentioned it was right before they had sex.
Right. The dude, I don't know if she just met him, but like he was tutoring her, and they decided to get it on with milk. Like it's all about sex because there's no horror in that.
And I guess you could say not Pennywise. Killjoy's like the hood version of Pennywise, all the way down too, because. Even with the Killjoy design, over the fucking top, it was. Cause think about it, his hair was stuck out like 3 feet. Mm-hmm. Why? What was the one part? I mean, I thought this part was fucking awesome, but the part where he was breakdancing, I was like, why is he doing that? His dialogue was like,
well, from hood to hood. So.
Yeah. What was he said? I want to bust a cap in your ass. I'm like, why did he say that? But even like I said, if it would have worked out a lot better in that film, like we were talking about, if the dude got beat up and got killed by the guys. End up calling Killjoy. And the problem with the film is you don't feel for any character.
No, not any.
Even the light skinned, even like the light skinned main chick, didn't care about her because for one, she didn't seem to. Even though she was quote unquote friends with old dudes, you don't believe it.
No.
And even him, he was creepy.
Because it started off just the movie started off with not knowing like they're
who
just
they are.
walking up to him and be like, hey, hey, on the other side of a fence.
Which nobody understands why the hell they were back there. But I was like, man, but even though Killjoy is probably the most entertainment at the film, of course, and that's the problem because I don't like horror films that make their characters shitty, but they solely rely on the villain or supernatural entity or slasher to be the most interesting character. Like I said, I had a problem with that. I Know What You Did Last Summer because the characters were so stupid and nothing going on about them. Really, the only character that had any interesting quality probably was Michelle Gellar, whatever her name is, Buffy. Buffy about the only one. It's not mentioned Mr. Mouth. Dude like to hold his mouth hanging open all the damn time. Retard.
Wow.
But anyways, so I'm like, they need to work on those characters. They could have been a lot better. That whole sex sequence didn't make any sense. There's no
ass bed.
Yeah. And this dude, you got this young girl, this 30-year-old man came up there having sex with her, talking about something he gonna help out. Like, all right, he helped out. But one of the few movies that I've seen that was, and I think the hood element even messes it up some, along with the comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Not the hood element, was Vampire in Brooklyn. As much as I love the movie because it is one of my favorite horror films, I hate the comedy in it.
Okay, I can understand that.
Because him doing all of this stuff to try to seduce this woman and their relationship, they had chemistry on them. That one thing that they got right on there, they popped, was the chemistry between them two.
Mm-hmm.
But the comedy is just atrocious. That one guy, in fact, that same dude played on Death by Temptation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm tired of him being in
these. I think it's Kadeem Harrison.
He needs to stop playing these comedy roles.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen him in a minute, but he don't need to do them no more. Because every time I see him play this stupid comedy role in movies and stuff, it just don't work. When we was watching that, I'm going to get you, sucker, he was getting on my damn nerves in that movie. Even though in Death by Temptation he was the most likable character, because he had sense. He wasn't stupid. But even with like Vampire Brooklyn, you had a good female lead. The only problem I had with that was like all of the psychological problems and stuff. They didn't really tell us a good story, set that up right in the movie.
Right.
Like with her mom.
My mom got killed.
Yeah, they didn't do a good job.
It's not like did she see it?
Mm-mm. Not that we seen.
So it's not like she's like witnessed it or anything. So she's just having bad dreams.
Yeah, it'd have been pretty cool to actually see that like at the beginning of the film of that happening, and then it cut to present day.
Yeah.
So that right there, and that right there kind of hurt the story. And of course, I don't like Alan Payne in the movie. I did not like him. Not only did he mess up the performance, but like his character and that whole romance was just too rushed. Way too rushed. And it probably would have been better too if we got a bit more on his character.
Right. I mean, well, because they've been working together for how long, and he just don't want to like act on his feelings.
No, he always kind of had something. They always was some chemistry. But I'm like, with a movie like that, it should have been like, I'm saying like too much. With a movie like that, I say it again, but it actually said in the sentence.
With a movie that.
Yeah. It should have been a bit of it. The main story should have followed the two main ones. Get them a little bit you get a little bit of motivation and backstory for the Maximilian character. You get a little bit backstory of the main female character. Throw some crumbs in following this new guy. Because another thing I thought was kind of a problem was it was a time limit on it. He had to seduce her like within 3 days, and I'm like, I didn't like that.
For the next full moon.
Like I didn't like that. It should have been him going to that area and just killing people and getting fixated on her. And it should have been like over a course of weeks. That way, we could have got a bit more. We could have got a bit more from Alan Payne's character, and the tension that's being built up. Kind of like the biggest another one of my favorite horror films with a black lead in it, Predator 2. One of the problems with that movie is you don't get a sense of time. You don't know if the Predator's killing these people over a course of like a month, because when you watch the movie, it feels like 2 or 3 days. All of this just jumps off in like 3 days. So I think that's another thing. Pacing, even with the Killjoy thing, what we were talking about.
So when would you have liked for the Alan Payne character to come in?
I would have liked him to have been like a transfer. And possibly transferred before the movie starts up, so that way you get a sense that they're both new to each other. So that helps the audience get to learn about both of them because they're learning about each other. Mm-hmm. But if you're watching the movie with them two already partners and there's already this romantic thing there.
I mean, did she really like him? I mean, I know she liked him, but. She wanted him. She could have had him. She waited for Maximilian.
But this is the thing. When you go and watch a movie like this, who would you rather have been with? Personally, Maximilian.
Yeah.
So, and that just goes to show you, just like with a movie like that, and also like there should be less kookiness in these movies. Now I'm going to bring up another series that's just fucking terrible across the board with no redeemable qualities whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And of course, I'm talking about Leprechaun. Leprechaun in the Hood, Leprechaun Back to the Hood. And look, we understand the Leprechaun series is terrible. The only thing good about any of it is Warwick Davis. Mm-hmm. But the whole Leprechaun to the Hood thing definitely just... Which is weird because it's like when you watch any of the other movies, there weren't like in the first movie it wasn't Leprechaun in the country, Leprechaun in the trailer park, Leprechaun in the backwoods in the bayou or something like that. They just had to do the back to the hood thing.
See, they say the hood, and then what do you see in the hood?
They put
you see people jacking cars, you see people smoking, doing drugs, and like it's mostly black people that Leprechaun, and so that's how they see it. That's how
And they put every trope in it that they could.
Yeah.
They put the whore chick in there. They put the gay dude in there, and a feminine one too. Mm-hmm. They put the really fat chick in there. Of course, the main characters in one of them had to be rappers.
Right.
And what happened in the other one? The four main characters, of course, which I will give that movie this. One thing that they did right. The dark-skinned chick was the main one. The light-skinned chick was the secondary one. The light-skinned chick got killed. Which was random, because it's like, why did he kill her?
That was the one with the gold tooth?
That was the other chick. No, that chick was just another chick.
Oh, it's just random.
Yeah. And I was like, why did he kill her? Because he didn't ask her what the goal was. He like went there to specifically kill her. And I was like,
yeah,
okay. But they even brought up the gangs, of course. Mm-hmm. Really bad. They did bring up the police, which I think they were. I want to say they were corrupt, but I'm not sure. Because I do remember he did tear one of them guys' legs off.
But not everyone is corrupt, but they make it seem like.
Oh, go ahead. Because even in that film, one of the things I got pissed off at was they got the pot of gold and they stayed in the hood. That was dumb. It would have been even an interesting point if they would have just started the movie off in the hood, and then the leprechaun went across the country or wherever he went to go get them, go find them or whatever to get their stuff back. I mean, that would.
Because what did they do when they got the gold?
They stayed in the hood
and had a party
and just did stupid stuff, stupid crap. Like, I don't want to see that. And the characters were just dumb. You didn't like any of them. I did kind of like the light skinned chick. And yeah, you're right. There was that guy that all he did was smoke weed. Mm-hmm. So, and then of course the other main dude, what was him? What was he? A former gangster. And I was like, really? Jesus Christ. The movie Axum. One of the problems with that film, and this is an old movie. It was an old movie. One of the problems with that film was, and it's basically the Black Jason, was the fact that it had too many characters.
Yeah, I think some of those characters got killed twice.
Yes, the problem with that was there's too many characters, so you didn't focus. The only person that you really remember was what? The main guy whose grandfather's house they went to. Because remember that one scene that he had in it, he was trying to get to the door, but he was bouncing around as he was making his way to the door. Mm-hmm. Like that guy, and then the guy with the glasses. Because when he got hit with that bat, his glasses did that little flippy thing. But the best part of that movie was when everybody runs out the house.
And the dude ran into the camera?
No, not that one. That was afterwards. Everybody runs out the house, right? And they get ready to go get in the car. See this big dude at their car. Everybody literally stops and says, "Oh, shit!" That was the funniest thing I've ever seen in a horror film. And then, of course, when they ran back in the house, you got the one guy that runs into the camera. Ah! So that was just ridiculous.
It's like they had fun making that movie. I understand having fun, but, you can be serious. You just had a bunch of black people running around in the middle of the woods, and just like you weren't even serious about making the movie because it was a stupid movie.
I can understand B movies. I can understand movies that yeah, you're right. They're having a bit of fun with it. They just shot a little something. And that it's kind of hard to know if they actually were taking, if I'm supposed to take this film serious. Because me, I'm at this point now when I'm critiquing movies. Mm-hmm. I'm critiquing movies. Mm-hmm. And there's very few movies I'm like, you don't need to take it serious. Sharknado is probably one of them. Z Nation is probably another. But with that, I'm like, it could have been better. Mm-hmm. A lot better. People Under the Stairs is another. People Under the Stairs is another one of those kind of racially charged ones. But it was an interesting story. Now, when we went back and watched it, the question is, who's the good guy and who's the bad guy? Yes, you had these white people that was robbing and evicting everybody. Mm-hmm. But what did I say? You had these black hood dudes that was robbing people as the main protagonists. And I'm like, I don't like them either now.
Oh, the one they pretended to be the, to get up in the house.
When I was younger, I hadn't realized that they were like that. But when it was talking, I was like, well, wait a minute. So you talking about indoctrinating this young boy into stealing stuff?
Right, so it's like they were protecting their home even though they were doing some shady stuff.
Yeah, so like with that one, that one right there was an interesting one. It had good writing. Some of the whole racism bit was a little bit in there, but it wasn't bad.
Right. Okay, what about at the end, though, when they were all standing out in the front?
I didn't like that scene because I'm like, there's no way in hell you can have that many people out there, and none of them people do anything to come together. I'm like, so that's the only time y'all come together is to complain about these people? If these people are that much of jerks or whatever, leave. Give your money to somebody else. And I understand it was like a poor neighborhood and all that stuff, but I'm like, some of these decisions that y'all making kind of contribute to that. So you can't just solely say it's on them. And again, like I said, I think that movie is all about perspective. And plus, I'm one of those guys, all that racism stuff and all of that, I'm not just going to sit there and say it's the white man's fault or anything like that. I think that's stupid.
Right.
So, like that movie, Okay, it had a little bit in it, but it wasn't like super bad or anything. So I really enjoyed that right there. I had to go and let's go back to the whole Blackula. Went back, I watched that. I didn't like the whole hood aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
and but that was like the biggest turnoff. You know, the whole and it's set in like the '70s, so you hear him saying like jive turkey and stuff like stupid shit like that. And
Okay, but if if they were gonna make a horror movie set in the '70s, that's how they would
yeah,
talk. But that you wouldn't have it like that. You know how you saw it, like all. Okay, how was the movie? Because I didn't see it.
it was it was cheesy. It was cheesy. It had a B ish feel about it, and I can understand it being somewhat like a groundbreaking thing for that time. It
Mm-hmm.
don't hold up now. I tell you that it don't. But but I can say I can appreciate it because
But B
again,
movies have the potential of being good. Some of them do.
some of them, I'll admit to that too. And I didn't mind the whole Black Dracula thing, but you know my thought about Dracula, I don't like the whole stereotypical Dracula. They went with that Dracula,
Like what?
the blood. He had the whole cape on with
Oh,
the
the
collar
blood.
raised and stuff. I'm like, it's obvious this cat don't need to like he's so out of place there.
Mm-hmm.
That's one. That's why again, I like the whole Maximilian character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he wasn't from there, but he had the suit on. He looked different,
Right.
but if he seemed like he was a rich guy there. He didn't seem like he was just some guy wearing some like a foreigner. It made sense.
Okay, so
He
because
fit.
like when he went to when Max went to the John Witherspoon character, he looked at his threads and but he wanted to live in that dirty building.
Hmm.
So
Like that right there, you'd be like, okay, he's out of place. Now him just being there, no.
no.
You just say, yeah, he's a guy that's sharp. You got some
Right.
money on him. So that's why I really appreciated his. And he wasn't like stupid. But and then another thing I don't like about black films are when they make a black film, it always seemingly goes with like everybody has to be like black. That's like no other ethnicities in it. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, it doesn't have to be exclusive. There's no reason for it. Now when Black Panther dropped, it was in Wakanda, predominantly black. If not everybody's black, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, not all hoods are black, just strictly black. Not
Right.
all hoods, but you know what I'm saying. But there's also the stereotypes with that too, because you have a hood movie, of course you're going to have quote unquote Latinos in there, Hispanics in it, and they're hood too. They're hood gangsters and stuff too. So, but like I said, I don't want it to be like that. I'm like, okay, there are some places, there are some hoods that are like that. Fine, I'll give it to you. But there are some that are actually pretty good and decent.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to kind of break out of that. Now, one of my favorite zombie films is Night of the Living Dead. Not the old one. I mean, the old one's alright. It was alright. It was alright. But they remade it in the '90s, and I can't remember the black dude's name. I actually want to say it's the guy that played Candyman.
Tony Todd.
Yeah, I think he was the main protagonist in it, and I liked him because yes, he was not aggressive, but he took charge, and he kept going off on that one guy that was trying to be an asshole. But I like, but I like seeing that. I like seeing that. I like seeing the character that is like strong, but not like over the top. I don't think he's over the top. They completely work for him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually interested in seeing like a black zombie movie, but again, I don't want it to be like
You want to be like a new one, not like an old one, because they do have one. I think it's called Zombex.
yeah they got a whole
Zombies.
bunch. They got a whole bunch, and I could say yeah I haven't seen them all.
Zombie X, I think.
I had not. I could say I have not seen it. What is up with this Petey Wheat Straw?
Oh, that was an old movie that I had watched when I was younger. It's just about this dude. I guess you would say in the hood. He's trying to get. I guess he was a pimp, and then something happened, and he made a deal with the devil. The devil was like, "Okay, I'll give you your whatever fame and fortune, but you got to marry my daughter." And he was like, "Okay," and so he, on and on. I wouldn't call it a horror movie. It was just featuring black actors, at the end it was so funny because I think he had forgot about the deal, and oh, he got in that limo at the end, and she pulled off her veil, and it was so funny. She was messed up. But it was no, I can't hardly remember it. It was just a movie that features black actors, predominantly black.
There was a trilogy. I'm trying to think what it was called. Where it was some guy where he had long nails, but it was ridiculous. I heard look at researching it when there's another YouTuber was talking about him, and I was like, who in the hell would watch this shit? Because it's stupid. And it had got this voodoo-ish type feel to it. But I want to see an iconic creature. I'm like, you got Jason, you got Michael, you got Freddy, Pennywise, Creeper. I want to see someone come up with their own black version. About the only one I could think of that popped out is Blackula, and he's actually based off of somebody else. So, but I actually want to see an interesting and cool like creature. That's if you're gonna go with the whole hood aspect of it, fine. Like I said, the Killjoy was an interesting idea, but whoever wrote it is a fucking idiot and a hack. Cause that was just, and I mean it was low budget, so I can understand it being shitty, but like I would actually want them to redo it, reboot it.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't mind seeing a reboot of it because it was an interesting idea. Now, when we was watching the movie, what was it? Don't Breathe.
Yeah.
Don't Breathe kind of had People Under the Stairs vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an interesting concept. And I want to see more black actors, black directors and writers or whatever kind of branch out in that. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see the stereotypical people being in the hood stuff. I mean, you can have somewhat elements of it, but just don't focus on it. Like every time there's a hood thing going on, we don't need to see some gang in it or something like that. We don't need to see somebody complain here about quote unquote the white man. We don't want to see. We don't need to see everybody in poverty all the freaking time.
Right.
Remember when we watched Black Panther? One of the things that pissed me off is at the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie. What was it? What did you see? What was the setting?
In the hood.
Yeah. So I'm like, we don't need to do that all the freaking time.
Yeah, you can make black horror films, black anything without it leading back to that. Because I mean, if you keep harping on the same thing, it gets tired after a while. I actually get tired of hearing people talk about it. You know, like, oh, we need more black. And then if you do see it like an up and coming movie like now, and basically like Girls Trip, that I saw the preview. I didn't even see the movie.
That was a horror movie in itself. Tiffany Haddish just.
I mean, you can have black successful women acting right without acting hood. That was stupid. That's something you don't do. And you don't do it in movies, and you don't do it like in reality. So that's just you gotta acting on talking like a man. Come on now.
And then another thing too, a lot of times they got this weird obsession with like, if there is like a somewhat like a thriller, we're branching the thrillers for a second. The dude ain't never around,
right?
Or it's always like the mother trying to defend the children, but it's not like the dude's there, and it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what was the movie that came out? I think, what's the chick that's Gabrielle Union? That movie, like what's the dad at?
Right.
Now I'm saying that, but I hadn't seen it. But I'm like, just in general, why the dad isn't there? I don't care if he died. Why was it written to where he died? There's another movie that It Comes at Night, which I still don't understand that damn movie. There's some kind of virus going around killing. And at this point, it's like after the virus and wiped everybody out, so now everybody's kind of trying to survive and do their own thing. Mm-hmm. But kind of like the end of the movie, it's like what the fuck? What happened? Mm. But it's got two black leads in it, even though one's a complete dumbass. But like I said, Jordan Peele is doing a great job with the horror films because a lot of the stuff that he's doing has like a psychological thriller element to it. And I have seen a trailer for Us. I hadn't seen all of them. But it seems like a really interesting concept. Like I said, with Get Out, it had like a bit of a psychological horror feel to it, but it was a really interesting original idea. And like I said, of all the horror films that I've seen that were like predominantly black or anything, the best one to me that I've seen so far, probably People Under the Stairs, uh, A Haunted House, which I was gonna say, why don't we have like a haunted house with black people in it? And then of course the Wayans brothers came out with one, A Haunted House.
Right.
And honestly, they sometimes focus a little bit too much on comedy, but the movie was actually like creepy. Like it was funny and so like beginning of it was like funny. Like first half of the movie is like funny, but then you get to that last half, then it actually gets into the whole like creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they came out with the sequel, which the sequel was just I don't know what to say about the damn sequel. It was okay. It could have been better. Yeah, it could have been better. A lot of it did have something to do with like kind of they tried to be again throw too much humor in it, and I'm like, stop with the humor. And then they tried to recycle some old jokes. Like one of the jokes was in the first movie he had sex with a doll, and then they brought that back in the second movie. I'm like, why? And then and you get to see him doing it with the doll like a dummy, which was already too long in the first movie. And then they did it again in the second one, just equally long. And I'm like, stop with these damn sex with the dolls and stuff. But I want to say, like, I want to see a black version of The Exorcist. I want to see a black version of Friday the 13th.
They got it. Accent.
Nah, that's alright. They need to reboot that. I want somebody to pick that up and reboot that. Talk about 7 people that went and chilled in a cabin in the woods somewhere, and then some killer is just hunting them down. Because when was the last slasher film you seen like that? Again, I'm not saying that there ain't one out there, but I just haven't seen it.
Right.
So I'm like, what was the like actual good? And then, like I said, I don't want to see no like one little movie title right here says Holler.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, wow, really? Now, I guess you could say Candyman is iconic, like black one, because he is in like, ain't he in like Baton Rouge or in New Orleans or something like that? New Orleans?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it was like it wasn't a hood place where those people were. It was just like run down. I think you saw.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Some...
Okay, we can go back and say next to Killjoy, Candyman would be the most prominent then.
Okay.
Candyman would be the most prominent. I want to say Hatchet too, but every Hatchet movie I see, it's like one black dude. Victor Crowley.
Wow.
Oh man. But because look at the movie Mimic. I don't know if you remember it. In the movie Mimic, the black dude was kind of like hardcore. In fact, what's the name? Charles. Dang, what's his name? Dutton. Charles S. Dutton. Oh. That's right. And I like seeing, and sometimes I like seeing like the black people in the movies because they do kind of have that strength. Because they always have the best like they go out like soldiers. Because Charles S. Dutton, every time I see him in a horror film, he dies, but he always dies being a badass. Because in Alien 3, what happened? They was trying to get it. They was trying to trap it, and the thing was trying to get out, and he stayed back for it to stay trapped. And I love that line he was saying, "That all you got, motherfucker." He died, but and then of course in the movie Mimic he did the same thing. He drew those giant bugs away. I mean, he died, but so. And again, even when we going back to the whole first Alien movie, the black dude tried to save the white chick. He got killed for it, but so I would have okay. When it comes to the actual importance of black horror films now, What is your thoughts about that? Are we getting enough of them? Are they prominent enough? Me personally, I don't think so. I think they're shitty, most of them.
And I don't think that the black horror films are prominent enough, or even the like just the black regular films. I mean, because you see black regular films, yeah, it focuses mostly on the hood, but you can't actually make a black film that don't have anything to do with slavery, the hood, and people will watch it. You just have to try. Just like Versailles. Yes, it was true. You know what happened to Louis, and but black people are so convinced that the Egyptians were black. Why don't they do some research and make a series about that?
Hmm.
And so you wouldn't be focusing on slavery. You'd be focusing kings and queens, and black kings and queens. If y'all are so convinced that Egyptians were black, and you wouldn't see any of that. It'd actually be a good movie. But they're so focused on that.
It probably wouldn't be.
Yeah, they're so focused on that. All the slavery and the hood stuff that every movie they come out with, black horror, it has to have some of that in it.
Hmm. And then there's a movie that came out called Attack the Block, which I got the movie, I think.
Mm-hmm.
In it, it was in the hood because it follows this gang of kids or young teenagers.
Mm.
You can't really like them because they're assholes, but and the aliens, these weird alien things start attacking. Great concept, and a lot of the stuff they got in the movie is good. But I'm like, okay, so why can't we get a movie in America? Because it's set in England, I think,
Mm-hmm.
London, one of those over there, somewhere over there. I'm like, why couldn't we get one of those types of movies here?
Yeah.
In fact, that's one of the ways John Boyega popped out because he was the main guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one reason he got put on the map because his performance in that movie, which I ain't gonna say was bad, it was actually pretty good. But I'm like, okay, so yeah, where's the alien movie at? We need more zombie films. Vampire, and the thing about it is, if you got a low budget or whatever, bro, fine, you got a low budget, but you can make a vampire movie, a good vampire movie. Where's the black version of Interview the Vampire?
Mm.
And don't tell me no Death by Temptation. Cause that movie was just fucking terrible. It was terrible. I don't understand who in the hell greenlit that shit. But I'm gonna do some more research on some more black films, and I want to just compile them. And I'm gonna even do it generationally. Movies that came out in the '70s, some that came out in the '80s, '90s, 2000, 2010s. So that way I can sit there and get a good gauge on what we're going towards when it comes to black films, and not only just black films, black horror films, but black led horror films.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still predominantly trying to focus on black horror films. So, guys, we definitely hope that you like the topic of conversation here. We're talking about black horror films. If you have some movies that you would recommend to us that you would like for us to talk about, we'd definitely like to talk about that.
Now, don't think we just ragged on all the black films and made them look bad. No,
I did.
We're just
I did.
going by what is in the movies and what we saw.
I did. I didn't like most of them. I really don't. But like I said, I'm gonna go back and try to watch some, and hopefully I can be surprised. You know what I'm saying? And maybe find some gems. You know. But anyways, yeah, leave us your thoughts. Some of the best ones you've seen, some of the worst ones you've seen. And yeah, recommend us some. And if they are bad, I'm going to not only rag on the movie, but the person that told me to watch it. They're going to get it too. But anyways, be sure to hit that like, share, subscribe, and that notification button to get the best of what we got going on this channel, guys. And we'll definitely catch you guys later. Narik and Madam B are out.